ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here, Oilers Live, with a special Sunday night edition of Oilers Live. We haven't been on the air in a long time, and I've got a couple special guests and some regular co-hosts, if you will, and Patrick from the Oilers Fanatic and Dash from Dash in the Park. But we've got Mr. Tyson from Dolynny TV with us tonight in the background, in the dark. Hey, I'm in the dark here. All right, and we've got Mr. Kevin McCurdy. What show aren't you on lately, Kevin? So I don't know. What's your regular show right now?
I guess the Cult of Hockey podcast is kind of where I'm at the most.
All right.
Every Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Pardon me, sorry?
Almost every Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken.
No, wait, that one's sort of an on-demand.
Oh, I was thinking Low Tide. Sorry, my brain went
Yeah,
straight.
no, Low Tide I'm on. I guess Low Tide is the most frequent one I'm on, and that's Wednesday at 1.
Wednesdays. There you
So
go.
we're keeping you busy as the pulse of Oilers hockey. And your first ever time on Oilers Live. So we're happy to have you. We've got a full show, and as some stranger already in the chat says, a full house. So we've already got some of the good listeners tuning in already. That's bumping up.
There hasn't been an all-star team like this assembled since the 1986 NHL All-Star.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was that was good. We'd get into that, no doubt.
See, Dad would have a story about that, I'm sure. He would already be like, into the Wikipedia entry of Bruce McCurdy. But
let me tell you why Glenn Sather got to pick those 11 guys that all made the All-Star game.
Exactly.
Yeah, no doubt. That would be awesome, and some good times for those of us old enough to remember 86 in the All-Star game. Not me, of course, not me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I might have been. We'll start with the draft tonight. We'll get into everything from free agent signings, extensions, some of the rumors. We've got a full show tonight, folks. If you want to join into the chat, please join in the chat. We'll get you there. But yeah, tonight we're going to start with the draft. I'd like to get some feedback from the guys, specifically Tyson and Kevin, maybe as newbies on the show, a little bit on the draft. First in the picks, I'm just going to run through the picks. The Oilers ended up with 5 draft picks in this year's draft. The first one coming all the way down at number 80. But actually pretty exciting draft pick, Tommy Lafreniere from the Kamloops Blazers. At 117, they got David Lewandowski from one of my favorite dub teams, the Saskatoon Blades. And then they went to a guy that actually I think has a great USHL pedigree with Asher Barnett. Mm-hmm. Daniel Salonen, who I knew absolutely nothing about, a Finnish player. And then finished that off. Was it the last pick or the
second last, I think.
Second last pick, Aiden Park from the USHL, Green Bay, another center. So at the end of the day, they got right wing in Lafreniere, center in Lewandowski, D-man in Barnett, and a goaltender in Salonen at 191. Maybe Kevin, do you know anything? You got any insights on some of these picks? I'm always interested in the goalies because sometimes those guys can go way down the list.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Let me quote something just to bail Kevin out a little bit here. I read David Staples' article in the Cult of Hockey, and I thought his quote was really great. To say that Solonen has gone under the radar is an understatement. I can't find one single scouting report on him, not even in his saturated era of internet hockey coverage. Of course, he's a goalie, and many writers don't know what to make of goalies. I don't think there is much on this guy other than he just had a credible season and won all the trophies you can win.
I mean, he went 23-1, so there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. It's all right.
Let's just throw him in now. He is ready.
Yeah. We got our goalie, boys. Everybody,
we got our goalie. Great news.
Settle down. Show it over. Kevin, any thoughts on some of the other guys? Lafreniere?
Bruce Kurlock thinks that Lafreniere is a bit of a reach. At least at 83, I don't know enough about the player, but if anybody has not seen Bruce Kurlock's Substack post that he put up today, that is basically required reading if you want to get to know these players. That man is one of the best analysts in the region, in my opinion, in addition to, you guys.
Well, you said it with a straight face for about 2 seconds, and then he falls into the laughter.
Michael, you sent the e-transfer, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Michael, you sent the e-transfer?
I got it to him. You betcha.
Right, okay. Thanks,
Whoa,
Kevin.
whoa.
Thanks,
You're sending
Kevin.
e-transfers now?
Oh, yeah. No. We're taking it out of your bonus, Patrick.
When you start complimenting like that, Patrick, we'll consider.
Yeah, hey, Kevin's now the highest paid heavy hockey correspondent.
Yeah.
As a heads up.
Next time I meat up with Michael, I get bought a coffee. That's the payment.
And that would make you the highest paid heavy hockey correspondent.
Yeah, a small coffee.
Yeah, small coffee.
Yeah, small coffee.
Using Tim's points or McDonald's points, right?
Yeah, get carried away. Let's not get carried away. Bob the goalie and Ryan, all the guys are in the chat tonight. I'm surprised we haven't seen Oilers Fanatic yet in the chat. Tyson, I mean, you're new here. Well, we've had you on once before. What's your thoughts? Any thoughts on these guys in the draft?
Really, the one that piqued my curiosity the most was David Lewandowski. I think he's a name I've seen a few times over the past, I guess years we led up to this draft. And again, I believe he played for the German national team, or no? Where did I see that?
Yeah, he's German.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right under there.
Oh, right under there, yeah. Where was that? There's something right there. So, yeah, he's a guy, again, I think we're all kind of sitting here waiting for that wave of German players to kind of influx the Oilers with the influence of Draisaitl, and just seeing them go out and get a guy who, not a small guy by any means, kind of that 6'1" range, and a guy who he'll take time to develop, but again, kind of fits the strategy of the Oilers, some late round picks that they know they've got some culture guys in the dressing room at the NHL level that'll still be here when they get here, and hopefully, pans out. That's kind of the hard part for me for this entire draft, is you're talking about your first pick is in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a nothing draft when you're going down to number 80 before you go in. I mean, Kevin, Blue Bullet Brad, obviously he'd have something to say about the likelihood of any of these players making it into the NHL for any type of time. So especially at number 80, which not that long ago, that was, quite a ways down in terms of rounds, right? Like that. Yeah. 80s a long way down. The other, I'm sitting here thinking about this German thing. I mean, what a absolutely great marketing campaign, right? Like, just, have all of Germany as Oilers fans, and you've got it made, right? Like, who else?
Aren't they already though?
Well, they got a pretty good
I think there are lots of Oilers
now.
fans in Germany, right? Yeah. Between here and Ottawa, right? That's the that's the thing. All right. Anybody else? Anybody stick out for anybody else in that list?
I watched a highlight package on Asher Barnett that I'll talk about in a second, but I think what I'd really like to kind of say is that I like the Oilers' approach, I guess, given the lack of assets and given what they didn't have. Sure, maybe Lafreniere is a reach. I'm not going to say he isn't. But really, we're just kind of swinging for the fences in these rounds anyways, are we not? And so why not take a chance on a high upside? And are you really stretching when you're picking at 83? You know what I mean? Go after your list. And I like that they got a goalie late. I like that they went after, again, Barnett that I mentioned, clearly doesn't get the captain see on his jersey without some sort of born leadership abilities, and he's carried that team to medals. What I saw out of him in the highlight package I watched, it was 4 or 5 minutes of some of the stuff he was doing, and it wasn't just the offense. It was throwing some pretty mean cross checks in front of the net and clearing space. There was 2 or 3 highlight passes on there, like from behind his own goal line where he was off the boards and to the other player's blue line. And, we just watched the Oilers bang their heads against the walls in the playoffs trying to do these Hail Marys. But we also saw success in guys that can move the puck, and he can skate it and he can pass it. I saw it in both occasions. I don't mind what they kind of went after, right? Like, sure, there's nothing out there on the goalie, but he went 23-1. I mean, and he's won the MVP of the league. He won the best goalie in the league, which I learned watching the Oilers Fanatic. Just saying. I don't know. I think I like the process. That's impressive, and everything is who the hell knows from here on, really.
I mean, you might as well take a goalie, right? Get some guys in the
You always got to take a goalie. You always take a late goalie because, who knows if you turn up the next Hendrik Lundqvist, right? Like,
bingo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read what Spencer Pamati had out on these two guys? A few of these guys?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Spencer is our guy for Heavy Hockey Network. Is an avid CHL fan and does the odd article on Heavy Hockey Network. Go for it.
Yeah, and our own Lotzi's in the chat saying Lewandowski is the most exciting for him. Salinen's numbers in Finland were pretty unreal, but again, goalies are voodoo. Pamati. Tommy Lafreniere pick at 83 and Lewandowski at 117 are both solid selections by the Oilers, in my humble opinion. Lewandowski is a finesse-style power forward, loves to put pressure on his backside, and can make plays with players draped all over him. Great fundamentals with his body positioning. Prioritizes position over possession on retrievals. Sounds like Janmark. Just kidding. Able to seal off D-men along the wall. Lewandowski will need to work on his skating. Top-end speed is an issue, and he's not big enough. 6'1", 176 to hold off the best in the league will have to offer. And when he's in tight, he's great at using his edges to hold pressure and avoid pucks. Excellent reception range and can take a pass or a dirty puck and still make a play with it. Lafreniere is a shoot-first forechecking winger, but also uses his shot to make passing lanes available to him. Started off the season pretty slow, but has carried on as has started to make a very considerable progression in his play. Excellent effort all around on the ice. Excellent mobility, sits low, uses crossovers and transition to push pace, uses his outside edges to avoid checks in tight. I love his off-the-puck movement. Great at getting lost behind defenders and timing his routes. Hard skill to find in a young player.
Yeah, so, interesting. I mean, we're talking about guys that are all very, very far down the line, but, if you can find that one guy that makes the team, hey, that's great. We can go from there.
Let's end the draft.
Yeah, love the Park story.
Yeah,
I love that. Anybody want to talk about that?
Well, second last pick in the draft. Shows
Buddy YOLO's,
draft.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Buddy YOLO's into the draft with like shorts and a sweater. Yeah, and gets picked second last, right?
Yeah, his buddies from Nashville are at that got drafted are at the table, and they noticed. They're like, "Is he wearing shorts?"
No.
What did everybody?
He was a re-entry guy, right?
Was he a re-entry?
Yeah, I think he was a re-entrant.
He's a snipe, though. He's another shoot first guy.
We could use more of those.
That's right. Yeah.
What's everybody's thoughts on the draft format?
I hated it.
Yeah,
hated it.
Hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
I was glad to be out of service for the entire thing.
I couldn't stay in service for the entire thing. Let's put it that.
Yeah, I watched it off and on, but yeah, it was a little bit hard to watch.
There's a certain dynamic with the in-person draft where you can tell people are wheeling and dealing and stuff versus a bunch of dudes locked in a war room in a closet somewhere, and then all the technical challenges of dudes not being able to figure out a Zoom call and that kind of thing. Like, it's just really frustrating to watch as a fan. It's like they're like, we're going to do this because the teams voted for it, but we're not going to do a very good job.
Yeah. Holland's trying to refer to his official record book.
Yeah, exactly. Hockey Reference. He's got the like 5,000 page mammoth thing that he's still referring to from 2005.
I'm getting a text message. How do I answer this?
Yeah.
We got Brian Sweet in the chat from Blackout Dallas, who we'll get into the Glen Gulutzan thing a little bit later, but thanks for tuning in, Brent. All right, let's move on from the draft. I mean, I haven't heard a good word. I haven't heard anybody say they loved it. Big news, Trent Frederic signs 8 years, $30.8 million. Let's talk about it. Dash, thoughts on Frederic, value, role?
Well, you get your clean replacement, right? I mean, if Kane was going to roll out another 82-game season, that's probably about where he sits, right? 18 goals, 20 goals, maybe in that range. I don't know if he intimidates like Evander Kane does. But at the end of the day,
I don't think he's about intimidation, though.
That's
not
right.
Really. He's an archetype the Oilers don't have, and I think that's why they did what they did.
I was just gonna say, he's one of those unicorn players that when you can combine speed and aggression and scoring touch, you're kind of crazy not to. So, I think 8 years is a bit of a surprise. I think that's just the Oilers. That's the weapon they have is term, and especially when you're under cap constraints, right? I mean, if you can get him at $4 million, I like the AVV. I like him at $4 million. He's the exact same age Lucic was when we signed that player in 20.
Let's not
It's
go.
not exactly filling the confidence boat, man. With anything but concrete.
Well,
it's in my mouth here.
It's worth bringing up. It's a type of that type style of hockey is hard on a body, right? Yeah. And here we are in 8 years. So let's not forget that with every single solitary Oilers contract that's signed with ink, it comes with the no movement clause. So he's locked up for the first 4, and then I think it's 10 teams for the next 2 and 20 for the next 2 after that, or for the last 2 years of the contract. So
Dolynny, you had
where I see him, third line center.
Yeah. And Dolynny, you had an interesting take on this on your channel there. You want to talk about it? Your thoughts on this?
Do I remember what I said at this point?
Well, you were basically, suggesting folks were calling out the Corey Perry contract of a year ago, and this would be akin to that. People are calling it out now, but I think that this is a character player that we need on this roster.
That does ring a bell. It's an absolutely long week. All day, Patrick and I have thought it's been Saturday, so that'll tell you where we're at today.
You mean it's not?
It's not Saturday?
With Trent Frederic, I think it's a pretty easy thing to say that as the contract goes along with cap rising and obviously him sitting there in the third line center position, it's going to age a lot better than, a lot of like the Lucic contract did or anything. You're not talking high dollar value, specifically 5 years from now. $4 million is going to be pretty much nothing. I think I can't take full credit for that whole thought. That is one of our buddies, Patrick and I's Gillis TV there. He kind of was the first one to be on that in the group chat we have going. So it's an easy thing to get behind for sure. Talking about, the age of the contract over 8 years, $4 million now. Yeah, kind of hurts a little bit, especially if Bouchard ends up over 10, but I think, 4 or 5 years from now, we're not even flinching at the fact that Trent Frederic, especially if he maintains any level of 18 goals a season, is making $4 million in 2029.
See, we should have had Lotzi on here because he's the guy who thinks this was an overpay, right? Anybody here think it was an overpay? Kevin?
I think the combination of the term and the AAV might be a bit of an overpay, but we'll see. The cap is going to go absolutely nuts, right? Like, people are going to be in for some real sticker shock over the next 2 seasons as they let the backstop off of this. Like, we're already seeing some bonkers contracts being signed that we wouldn't normally see AAVs like this. But I think players are just cashing in, and I think you're going to see a lot more of the 4-year terms too, as guys look to re-up as the cap expands. Like the Bouchard deal is rumored to be at like what 9.5 times 4, which would be a tidy piece of work by the org. People are like, no, sign him for 8, but it takes 2 people to sign an 8-year contract, and if he wants to go 4, then give him the 4, give him whatever he asks for.
Yeah. I mean, does this fit a need that the Oilers had before, or does this fit specifically a need the Oilers have now? I mean, obviously Kane's on the way out.
Fits a need the Oilers have always needed.
Yeah. It would have been really interesting to see if he was healthy from the get-go when he showed up in Edmonton, how much of a different impact he would have made in the regular season towards the end. And then, of course, once we got going into big boy hockey there in the playoffs, for sure.
Well, and if he had come in gangbusters, we'd be paying a lot more than $3.85 million for him right now. So, yeah, it would have been nicer for him to come in stronger, but we're kind of reaping the benefits of, hey, he looked pretty good, and I bet there's more potential there.
If you place third line center, though, that is a need the Oilers have had. Like, we've tried it with Nick Bjugstad, we've tried it with Nuge. Nuge was probably the best in that position, but that's a need that we've had. And if he can play all 3 positions, man, that's kind of that's an archetype we just don't really have that we need to lean on.
Well, that's one of the big problems in the finals, wasn't it?
Yep, it always is, though. It always is. The reason is we build this team as a 4-line team, but then we go to McDry, and all of a sudden we only have 3 centers for 4 lines, right? Like, that's just the reality of it. So the team, and I said this on one of the other podcasts or on Low Tide or something, but the team needs to decide what they're doing with their top line. If they're going to keep McDavid and Draisaitl together, then they need to get another second-line center. And if they're not going to do that, then they need to commit to keeping them apart even when the going gets tough, and they need to find the wingers to make that possible.
Yeah.
Brock Boeser.
No thanks. No, thank you.
We're and you know what? That's next. I mean, we could
not the Canuck you're looking for.
No.
We could go through all of this. I mean, this is we're going to get into free agency moves, trade rumors, that type of thing. Evander Kane is out. Corey Perry, at least in the near term, looks to be on the move, at least checking out free agency. Rumors, Boeser, Mangiapane, Maccelli. I've probably missed a few. We're not getting into the goaltending just yet, but we will. What else do the Oilers still need in free agency? Maybe Patrick, you've been a little bit quiet. What are your thoughts on what the Oilers need still yet in free agency?
Well, I want them to add somebody for the top 6, just for the points that Kevin was talking about. I want Draisaitl and McDavid separated. Like, as I've said before here, you put them together and you call it the nuclear
option.
Nuclear option. That was it. And you don't go straight to the nuclear option when you're attacking somebody. That's supposed to be your last resort. And we seem to go to the nuclear option as our first resort every time we're falling behind in a hockey game. So that needs to be saved for special situations, like at the end of power plays and the penalty kills, stuff like that. Find a second line player to keep those 2 guys separated. I think the defense looks pretty good. So yeah, probably I'd still like maybe 1 or 2 new pieces for the bottom 6 as well, just to give the whole kind of 4 lines a different look.
Yeah, absolutely. Thoughts like, I mean, it just seems like we're talking Bouch for 10. We just signed Frederic for 3.85. Who knows where McDavid's contract extension comes? This is the problem the Oilers were in. The main reason people yell at the Nurse contract, right, is you end up with all of these big contracts and no room to add in those pieces you're talking about right now, which are the lower end of the lineup, but you still have to pay a little bit better than league minimum to get guys that are going to take you the full distance, right? Yeah. Of course, we don't have the benefit of no state tax, but that doesn't mean a lot. Like, you got to do what you got to do. So,
we have McDavid and Draisaitl. That's our incentives.
Yeah. I mean,
people forget that all the players get paid in American dollars. I mean, so if you're getting paid,
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
14 million American.
There's volatility that goes with that, and
Big
other
time.
reason that we have to hand out no trade clauses like candy is because we're taxed higher than
And
the Floridas and the Vegases of the world.
And cost of living overall, and groceries and
and that's just it. I mean, we get paid in you get paid in US dollars, and go figure that everything costs about 1.35 more here than dollar per dollar. So it all works out in the end. It's that's not a thing really. At the end of the day though, right, like, it's Edmonton, there's a lot of things going against it as far as playing there, right? Like, how far it is to travel, the winters, I hate to say it, the fan base, right? Like you're talking about true. One of the, most passionate fan bases, sometimes assholes that you could find in the league, right? These are big things. All right. Out of those names that I mentioned, Kevin, I mean, your thoughts on any of those? Boeser, Maccelli, nope. Mangiapane?
Mangiapane first, Boeser third, and it's not close. Like, Mangiapane, AFP Analytics has him projected to be 3.8 for 2 years. That's really quite reasonable for a guy that puts up I use Micah's model a lot for synthetic goals. And the dude puts up, first line numbers year after year after year. Like, I don't understand why we wouldn't want to look there. By comparison, so like this past season, he's plus 5.1 SG, and by comparison, Boeser is well in the negatives. I think he's like -5. Like, he's a fourth liner by Mike as a model. That's really, really tough for me to say that we should be giving out $7-8 million a year for that, right? Like, I just don't see it. Sure, he's a bit of a bigger dude than Mangiapane is, but I think Mangiapane's a player and Boeser's a shot. So
yeah,
that's where I sit on that.
Higher hockey IQ.
Absolutely. In every aspect, defense, offense, all of it. You're looking for two-way players. Well, Mangiapane is a pretty damn good two-way player for the money.
And the Oilers have got to have Yamamoto, Arvidsson, or somebody like that in the lineup.
Savoy is kind of the the up and comer for that. So we don't need too many of them, but Mangiapane would be a legit get, I think.
Yeah, we always need that. Patrick, thoughts on that? I know you're a big fan of Boeser, and I think, why wouldn't you be? He's a legit 40-goal guy year over year. I get what Kevin's saying, but is that something we should be excited about?
That's the primary reason I want him. Like, I feel like he's more of, like, I get where you're coming from, Kevin, with Mangiapane is a more complete player, and that's for sure. But we just said Boeser's a shooter. What does nobody on this team do? Shoot the puck into the damn net. We need some guy that's going to score goals next to McDavid and Draisaitl, and I feel like Boeser's a far more sure bet than these guys that we've been giving out $3 million and $4 million to, who didn't even end up playing for the most part in the Stanley Cup Finals for this team last year. So I don't know if I want to go to that rumor that he's like $7 or $8 million. I was thinking more Boeser was probably going to end up more, if he becomes an Edmonton Oiler, in the $6 to $7 million range. I don't know if that's accurate or not. Maybe I'm off on that.
He's going to need more than that per one. It's going to demand more than that.
The Oilers, though, I think it's got to be at that number. Like, I don't know how the Oilers can go higher than that if he's going to be an Oiler, though.
What did somebody say? It like $9 million today?
Well, I think,
crazy. Yeah, I did see that.
That's crazy.
It's the lack of free agent talent that's out there, though. Like, Oilers is going to pull in 9 or 10 probably. You watch.
But I would give Oilers $9 or $10 million.
For sure.
Boeser 10 days out of 10. Right?
Absolutely agree. How good would Oilers look beside Draisaitl if you want to talk about a guy shooting the puck on the net?
Now you're talking.
Now I guess Mangiapane for 4.5, or Boeser for 9. That's a whole different
Not even close. Yeah, that's
Well,
it's not,
if
it's
you're talking
not a
about-
conversation.
Yeah, no,
actually.
if it's in those terms, it's Mangiapane for sure.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't pay $8 or $9 million for Boeser. If that is what he is, then no, I don't want him. But I was thinking more if the Oilers could find a way to entice him into the 6 to 7 range, I would do that.
Yeah, but if Mangiapane's projected at 3.8, that's better money still for a more complete player, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we can both have valid points there. I think I don't disagree with you from the pure shooting perspective, but I also know how Knobloch values defensive capability, and Boeser leaves me a little wanting in that category.
Still rumor around Klim Kostin, by the way, coming to Edmonton. I haven't heard.
Fourth liner at league minimum, no problem. You bury that in the minors tomorrow afternoon if it goes sideways. But
I'll take Cleve over Perry any day.
Would you?
The thing about Edmonton is some players excel here. The Connor Browns, the Klim Kostins, guys that just, I know that Connor Brown struggled after his injury and it took him 60 games to score, but he clearly feeds off the atmosphere here. And those are the guys we need to find, not frankly, Jack Campbells of the world who collapse under pressure. We need to find those players that are very specifically good in this market.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, and but that could be said anywhere, right? Like certain guys play well in certain places. They, and some of those guys come to Edmonton, they look like garbage, right? Like you get certain players fit within a system or within a community, and they just excel. And Kostin hasn't played the same since he left Edmonton. He's a guy that I don't know, Dash, if I agree I'd take him over Perry. I still think I'd take Perry one more year.
Okay, if it's at the money Perry apparently has been asking
for, okay, that's fair.
That's where my basis of my comment.
Yeah.
If he's going to take 2.5 or anywhere between 2.5 and 4 million, I'm going to take Klim Kostin at league minimum every time. I mean, Josh from Tough Call is in the chat and said, which one of the, let's start here. Which one of these guys will do anything to win? Let's start there. And Klim Kostin's one of those guys.
Yeah.
He's so streaky, but when he's on, man, he's such a fun player to watch too. Like some of those, did you get a hat trick with us? I think he only got a couple of 2-goal games, but those games were awesome to watch. Like he just feeds off the crowd, and not all the guys are like that, right? Like
speaking of the crowd, I think he won me over when he wouldn't take a picture of that guy with the Flames jersey.
I particularly liked it when he threw on an Oilers jersey when he was a paid player on San Jose. Like that's pretty ballsy.
Yeah, well, I think he's wanted to come back since he left. But
I think the same way that Vincent Desharnais did, right? Like I don't blame those guys for cashing in on the paycheck that was offered to them, but at the same time, most of us are aware that these guys are not going to live up to the contracts that they're signing, and in some ways will have wished that they stayed where they were for less money, but they also only get one career and one shot to turn it into a lifetime worth of savings for to live the rest of their lives on. So I don't blame them for taking their swing, even if it probably kind of sucks in some of those scenarios.
I don't think Klim Kostin ever got a hat trick, but I do remember being at a game with Jeff Aid from Heavy Hockey versus the Phoenix or whatever, Coyotes or whatever, the Arizona Desert Doggy guys, and had a Gordie Howe hat trick. I remember
that. Okay. With the guys that are out there today, and let's not talk goaltending. We'll get into goaltending separate. What do we need the most? Like if we're taking, I'm leaving that comment up for a bit.
Can I be that guy here? The same thing that we've needed for the past 10 frickin' years.
Mm-hmm.
A winger for Draisaitl or McDavid,
Mm-hmm.
a second pairing right defenseman,
Mm-hmm.
and a goaltender. It's been the same goddamn list for
Mm-hmm.
10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have anything to go with that? And well, who fits
forward
those
depth because we get
Right.
too much of our production from McDry.
Yeah, Mangiapane could fit that role for Dry.
He's a good 5v5 player, Mangiapane, too. Like, he gets
Yeah.
his goals in Calgary without top line minutes.
He's kind of fast, isn't he?
He's a little jitterbug, yeah.
Oh yeah, he's beat guys out for sure.
I used to hate watching him when he played for Calgary because he was kind of a pain in the ass to delete.
And he
to
played for Calgary. Yeah. So that was all you had to say was I used to hate watching him when he played for Calgary.
That's
well,
right.
but there's guys that give you hives, right? Like when they touch the puck. Oh man, good time to draw brain blank. But buddy out of LA, Kempe, Adrian Kempe. Every time that guy touches the puck, I get hives. Like he's so dangerous with it. It's just there's a bunch of guys like that. And when Mangiapane was on the Flames, he was a pain in the ass, and he made it kind of a battle.
Who this I mean defense specifically right-handed D. This is we've had guys that have played winger for Dry, but we've never seemingly ever found a second pairing right-handed D, which talking about unicorns at some point tonight. What can the Oilers do here? Anybody got any thoughts on this?
That market's real thin right now, but I heard a rumor that Mayfield might be available. So is that something you take a swing on? It's at $3.5 million until the end of time, but like,
isn't he like 7'3"? Like he has a WWE contract waiting. He's the next US champion,
right?
Yeah, he's massive. Why not take that swing for sure?
Somebody threw in the chat here, he's another Arvidsson, and I actually disagree that Mangiapane's another Arvidsson. Arvidsson floats around the second and third liner SG, and Mangiapane is a flat out first liner, or even borderline elite player by comparison.
They skate similarly.
Yes, but that's where the similarity stops.
Sure. I think he's on his feet a lot more than Arvidsson, but who ain't?
I was going to say,
I wonder about Arvidsson's hips.
There.
I wonder about Arvidsson's hips in the same way that I wondered about, Jesse Puljujärvi's hips, right?
Yeah.
Like
that skating style, Taylor Hall.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Taylor Hall spent a lot of time on the ice as well, actually.
Jeff Petrie is up for grabs. Maybe
I'm pretty sure he would hang up if we called them at this point.
There might be a better chance Brad Marchand comes to Edmonton than Jeff Petrie.
Yeah, there's a lot of old guys that are right-handed D, none that really sneak up on you. David Savard.
We need to get bigger and faster. Ultimately, like bigger and faster. I think when it comes down to it, and I don't know, maybe we'll transition out of this a little bit, but like the Florida Panthers, we're just not really beat. We're not built to beat those guys. They're like the opposite end of Newton's cradle with LA. Like we know we're gonna beat LA every time, but it's like how the hell are we gonna beat these Panthers? And as I watched us progress through the playoffs, I think we outcoached every team, which is a great surprise. It's a great change. I think Dallas got outcoached for sure. I think, which says a lot given DeBoer. I think LA got outcoached massively. And then we get to the final and hats off to Paul Maurice. I think he's the best in the league. I really do. And I'm not even sure it's close, but he found a way, right? And ultimately, the more I've been thinking about this as I've been unwinding it and unpacking it all is, did he get outcoached in the final? He did. But is this as bad as we think?
No.
Because the way I see it, honestly, is the adjustment, and I keep going back to that. And thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. Because the comment I keep going back to is Connor McDavid saying they kept, running their head into this wall or whatever the connotation of that was that they keep, running into the wall and doing things the same and couldn't get past. Well, I don't think that was a coaching issue, because the more I kind of look back and think about it, Paul Maurice made that big shift, right? It started in last year's finals, when they started taking the F3 off of the forecheck and immediately taking the F3 over to, it was often Rodrigue this year, over to McDavid right away, and try to cut off that build up speed, right? He's going to build up speed through the central, and that F3 immediately located whoever was going to do that big hitch loop and try to pick up speed through the neutral zone. Well, the Oilers have their entire offense built around speed through the neutral zone by McDavid and Draisaitl. And it's okay, Maurice out-coached us there. And so I was really excited to see this year how we would kind of, go against that. And in the first game, I thought that there was a bit of back and forth. There was different kind of, I think everybody was kind of trying to scratch the surface a little bit, see what works. By game 2, Paul Maurice figured out to do exactly the same thing. But then you see in the next Oilers victory, what was it, what was the
4?
4, thank you, yeah. We started seeing the birth of this Hail Mary pass, this like big bomb pass from the defensemen who were trying to get it deep to the other team's blue line. And well, it just so happened that we have these great guys like Wallman and Klingberg and Bouchard and that can make these types of passes. And all of a sudden that started working. But Paul Maurice, again, figured out a way to be able to cut those off. Well, ultimately, are the players not in a situation here where, look, I'm going to take like a football analogy, you guys. You can run or you can pass. If you're setting up the run and you're setting up the run, then passing should be easier. If you're setting up the pass and you're setting up the pass, then the run should be easier. Do the players not have the ability to pick up what forecheck is coming? Oh, he's going over to McDavid. Well, then they're going that forecheck. Let's do the big bomb pass. Oh, they're covering the outside. They're keeping the middle open. Let's give it to McDavid up the middle. Like, I feel like that's a personnel issue, not a coaching issue. Like, I think that they were trying, but they couldn't pick it up and they couldn't recognize it. So
Florida's a better systems team.
Yeah. So we're just not built well to beat them. So to go back to where I started, we need more speed and we need more size and more hockey IQ and more guys would give a shit. I'll stop my rant. I'm going to drag my soapbox over here now.
The only problem I have with all of that is the Oilers have made it to the final 2 years in a row
and lost.
Yeah, they lost, but they
To a
beat
team we can't
31
beat.
other teams there, right?
Except the team we need to beat.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay,
I
but
mean,
to be fair, look at the trade deadline that Florida had versus the trade deadline that the Oilers had, right? Like, we brought in Wallman, fair, excellent player. He's going to be part of our defensive core for hopefully years. I see him being Bouchard's partner in a year or two once Ekholm starts to wind down his career, right?
Hey, Kevin, wouldn't it have been nice to have $10 million in LTIR space right before the deadline?
Well, yeah, and I've had this argument with people online already about it.
I know.
And,
that's why I did that. Sorry.
The thing that pisses me off more than anything about that whole situation is that they handed a guy that did performance-enhancing drugs a 20-game suspension that conveniently ran out 2 games before the playoffs started, right? Like,
yeah, and then played in
that's
the
wild. That's wild.
Still
that's just
playing
wild
with the
to me.
benefit of what PEDs do to your body.
Well, and I don't know what he took. We don't know what he took. The league has been incredibly opaque about what was done there. But yeah, we iced a lesser roster than they did in games 5 and 6, and it showed every single shift. Every shift.
And that's the part where you talk about out coaching, and it just really doesn't, like Florida was just the better team.
Yep.
Right. Like I'm not saying the Oilers they need to beat that team. So obviously they need something, but at the same time, I mean, you can't look at this team and say they didn't give it everything they had. Like they made it there. Right. And there's 31 other teams, 30 other teams that didn't make it there. And so,
0 cups,
like
second place.
They
kiss your sister.
They still made it.
Great.
And
Here's your participation ribbon.
okay, shut up for half a second. Or I don't know how we put you on mute here, but
Needle.
like they still made it there. Like 30 other teams didn't make it there. And so, you still you can nick and you can go after everything that they got, but we said they weren't fast enough at the start of the season. But then all of a sudden they were fast enough to beat enough teams to get to the final, right? We said they were too old, but they were, young enough to make it to the final. Like they did all of these things. We still need right-handed D. We still got to, all these things are important. What they do need, I think maybe the most telling thing is what Kevin's saying is they've needed the same thing for 10 years now since since McDavid entered the league, right? Like it just seems, and it's some of it's some unfortunate part, right? Like this whole piece with Nurse, right? Like underpaying him for the bridge and having to pay him a pretty damn nice contract after the bridge. I don't blame Nurse for taking the contract, but it's 7th in Norris voting the year before. Screwed the Oilers for positioning after that, right?
I won't be surprised if Nurse gets moved in the next season or two. I know there was a lot of heat about it in the last week, and I think everybody was just maybe taking things a little bit too far, including me. But I won't be surprised if they try and move that contract at some point. Like at some point, McDavid's going to go, something has got to change. And, I know he wants to win a cup with his buddies, but I also know he wants to win above all else. And one of those things has to give eventually.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And for him, like, I don't know, it's got to be hard to play in this market, right? When we've joked about it how many times. If the light turns red and you're moving up to it, it's Darnell Nurse's fault, right?
Oh, he said that he was getting blamed for the traffic on Stony Plain Road. It's just not us saying it.
Yeah.
I think Nurse ultimately, if he was getting traded even sooner than later, Kevin, isn't that exactly what the team and all the media would be told to say? Is like, calm this down. They're about to try to extend on McDavid, for crying out loud. His best friend, the best man at his McDavid's wedding.
Yeah, and the pictures of him keep showing up of him at their private parties. So I have some difficulty with any narratives out there that they're not close still, right? Like,
yeah,
there's just evidence doesn't really support that. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, we know his Instagram doesn't have Oilers in it.
Yeah, that was
at least we know that, right?
Some people learned some lessons from that. We're not going to harp on them too much. Honest mistakes were made.
Yeah. I mean, that's not the first time those types of rumors have come out that guys, I mean, that's, if I was a player in the league, I'd change it once near free agency. I'd just have fun changing it just because.
Well, I just thought it was funny. Like, he still had his profile photo in an Oilers jersey, still following the Oilers. But if he supposedly took the Oilers out of his Instagram name, what difference would that make? I mean, why would that be your priority when you're getting traded? It's take somebody's name out of your Instagram profile. Like, I better go change my Instagram. I'm getting traded.
Here's a good question from McDoust on YouTube. Let's say you do get rid of Nurse. Who do you replace him with? Right, here's a guy. I mean, to your point, Dash, he finished 7th in Norris voting. What, 2 years ago now? It's
no, it was after the COVID
3
season.
years ago. And but he's also a guy that plays a ton of minutes for the Oilers, right? Given the free agent market today, I mean, it'd have to be a D for D trade, and you'd probably have some retention on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if you need to replace him, though, because your left side is Ekholm, Wallman, Kulak right now, right? Like, you have 3 left-handed defensemen on your roster right now. You need to go find a righty. Like I said, do you go after a Mayfield? Do you go after somebody that's cheaper? Like I won't be surprised if they move on over one of Ekholm or Kulak this year too, because that third pairing is just too much damn money, right? Like
We'd have to
too much money.
retain, but I'd entertain a Matheson for Nurse trade of some kind.
Well, the amount you're going to end up retaining is probably $2 million, which brings him down to the value that his contract actually should have been, which is between $6 and $7 million bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where he should have been.
Yeah.
Even then, that gives you a lot more flexibility. I'd take $6 million right now, if I'm being honest with you. But I know a lot of people like Nurse. There's some stuff about his game that drives me absolutely mental, like just completely mental.
Yeah.
The icings in game 5 and 6, man, I wanted to like throw my remote control at the TV. Like,
I think it's that lack of, again, they're trying that Hail Mary and trying to make these passes, and Nurse isn't, like, he's trying to execute a system that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I think the playbook was there. They just didn't have the personnel to execute the playbook.
Yep.
Shaw TV support is Kevin McCurdy's house for send another replacement remote, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was not having a good time in game 5 and 6. Like as soon as they started icing the puck like multiple times a period, I knew the team was in serious trouble. Like when it went to just back to, Chris Russell glass passes and like Hail Marys and shit, like I just that's kind of where I knew things were going sideways.
All right, let's move on. I know Nurse is always cue to move on to the next next topic. We're talking coaching carousel now. Glen Gulutzan's heading to Dallas, so they're said to be negotiating contract. And next up, we've heard rumor that Dustin Schwartz is on the way out. To some, that's a long time coming. To others, it's neither here nor there. And then, of course, what goes on with the rest of the coaching staff in Edmonton right now. Coffey has been rumored to. Is he extended? Is that for sure?
Is he being extended?
I thought or no, he said that he wants to stay on. And
I think that team strongly needs to look at finding a new defensive coach. That's one of the major beefs that I have coming out of the finals. When you're a defense coach, then you guys say that you use analytics as a team, and then your defensive coach says he doesn't use analytics to make decisions. Like that's rough, man. And it shows because some of the pairings that we're using were underwater the entire series. Like I know he had limited options as to who he could pair together, but using Fifis to make your pairings is not what we needed at that time, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest question mark, right? Obviously, Knobloch's coming back, right? But what do we do? And then what's the thoughts on who you replace Gulutzan with? Right? Has there been any rumors to that? I haven't heard any rumors on that, but at some point you have to figure they told Gulutzan it's been at least over since the final really that he could go after that Dallas Stars job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they've known for a little while. You got to think that they have somebody in mind. Is Mark Stewart gone? Like with if Coffey's gone, I guess Stewart's gone too, probably. I
think Stewart could go and Coffey can stay.
Maybe
where Stewart goes and Coffey stays. I mean, ultimately Knobloch gets to pick here, right? So if he wants,
that's the most important part. Straight up, that is the most important part. Is that he gets to remake the coaching staff and his own vision.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter who stays goes as long as it's between Stan Bowman and Chris Knobloch and nobody else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are we going to find a power play coach that doesn't like to queue up the pass 10 times in 2 minutes to Draisaitl? That's my only question.
Well, I don't know if it's legitimate speculation, but I know some people were saying we should go for Manny Malhotra, try and bring him over from Abbotsford.
Yeah.
Because he got passed over for the Vancouver Canucks head coaching job, so he might be open to coming up for an assistant position anyway.
Sorry, Dash.
Nope. I don't know. It's hard with the timing online. I might have cut you off as well, but I heard Steve Smith as well. He replaced,
that's not terrible.
Replaced Bob Locke in Hartford. So
yeah.
Yeah, I like I said, as long as he gets to pick his staff and we're not dealing with some more hockey bros being passed down from the organization, like we need to make some changes in that regard. Like the team struggled with special teams all year. They've struggled with, at times defensive pairings. Mark Stewart might be the only one that I might be interested in keeping around. Glen Gulutzan's obviously gone already, so. That's probably what I would be looking at.
Yeah. I mean, who else has coached Connor McDavid? I guess that might be an option for us. We need to go back. We might be getting his
Todd McDavid. Don't give me that look, Kevin. Don't give me that look. It's a possibility.
Dude, that narrative drives me absolutely mental. Like Connor doesn't have the same involvement in the team or doesn't appear to want the same involvement as Crosby, and it's always like, oh, it's whoever Connor wants, and to an extent that's true, but he just wants to win friggin' hockey games, right? Like
they're trying to set the table for him. They're trying to make sure he doesn't leave. They're closing out loopholes of risk here, I think.
You know what drives me crazy about that whole situation is by playing it safe and being, neutral as they can be. They don't take the risks that they need to take. They're actually gripping on stronger than they need to. If they just made smart business decisions and hired the right people and brought in the right players, there would be no, topic of McDavid leaving because we would be winning Stanley Cups. And by playing it safe and trying to not upset the apple cart, we're kind of like, here we are.
Have we heard anything? Let's get off that topic. Have we heard anything about goalie coach replacements? Have there been any rumors in terms of? I mean, and Schwartz is not out for sure yet. That's just a rumor, right? I haven't at least seen anything to confirm otherwise, unless if somebody else has, they can fill me in right now.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Dash.
we did it again. I was talking to somebody.
He killed his mic. He killed his mic. It's dead.
All right. Well,
all right. Well, Kevin, you get the floor, I guess, for now.
I don't really have a theory as to who. I think that Schwartz is dying to save Stuart Skinner, if that makes any sort of sense as a comment. Like he's just a casualty of trying to keep Skinner around for another year, and I don't really have an issue with that strategy, but something needed to change. Dash, we can now hear every single thing that you can type. So I think all your audio changed back to your other stuff.
Ooh.
If you just say something, Dash, we'll tell you if we can hear you.
Well, in the meantime, sounds like Toronto target there in that loophole around the what was that? What word escapes me now?
The tampering.
The loophole out of the tampering. Nicholas Hague, Darren Dreger saying just might have been traded over to Nashville. So
who has?
Nicholas Hague.
Oh,
that was kind of, I know, mentioned as a possible target for Toronto should they try and evade the tampering situation with Vegas on Marner.
Yeah,
it'd be pretty funny if the league made an example of Vegas after everything that's gone on.
Oh, I would love it.
And that's why it won't happen.
Yeah.
It is really hard not to wear tinfoil hat when it comes to these things. We talk about the Florida situation, we talk about some of that, but that's another thing, right? Like if with the day that we see somebody else get tagged for something like that, like a Vegas, right? Then maybe we kind of sit back and say, oh, all right, you know, like now that the Oilers have clued in on how to do LTIR, well, let's change it into the CBA, right? Let's put it
I
in
said
there.
for years, man, as soon as the Oilers or a Canadian team pulled that stunt, they were going to rug pull that as hard as they possibly could.
Has anything come out of the Evander Kane investigation? I heard they were looking further into that.
Sarah Valley said they were done with it. They weren't going to really do much because they were addressing it in the CBA anyways. So, and it's good news, I guess. And Kane doesn't play for us anymore. So,
I mean, I hate doing this. Like, I hate having a tinfoil hat, but it just feels that way sometimes for sure. But so fill us in, Tyson. You know a little bit about the tampering situation. Fill us in on that, because I actually just heard about that about an hour ago.
Okay.
What was going on?
Basically, I think it's been an assumption here for past week or two
Yeah.
that Marner's going to be there in Vegas pretty much July 1st. Now, I think it was start of this week or earlier in the week, there was a little bit of a refresher on what Bill Daly's been sending out to the teams as memos and understandings to everybody starting back in November that, hey, look, this is the year we're clamping down on any potential tampering. So cut it out. We don't want to see those contracts signed. What is it? Noon Eastern or whatever time it opens up at 12:01. We don't want to see that. So that was kind of, left out in the ether start of the week. And then all of a sudden yesterday, kind of when I was traveling back from Sundry, things flared up there about possibly Toronto getting in on, avoiding going to the league and saying, hey, Vegas did us dirty here, and saying, hey, let's make a deal, Vegas. Let's you help me. I'll let you do what you want.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. And no surprise, Vegas is Vegas is part of that conversation. All right, guys, we got to talk about it. Goaltending. Right? We talked a little bit about Schwartz. We talked about who might come in for Schwartz. I mean, Gibson, of course, was rumored prior to the trade. We've heard names like Sorokin. We've heard Jake Allen. We've heard some people say stick with the status quo. We've heard Connor McDavid isn't signing until something's done with the goaltending situation. And this is a show on its own, right? Like, this is you can't talk about this. I mean, let's start. Let's just go around the horn. We'll start with Tyson. Thoughts on the goaltending situation, rumors. What do you think the Oilers shouldn't do, etc.?
Well, staying with Pickard and Skinner is pretty much your safest option, given the fact you've got back-to-back Stanley Cup finals out of them. Now, I said this on a video with Patrick today. Is that the smartest option? Well, it's safe. It's safe. That's how I'll put it. But really, for the Oilers, is who's really out there for big game hunting. I know like Sorokin and Jeremy Swayman are kind of the two maybe biggest available. And once Boston by July 1st, July 2nd makes their claim to what they're going to do next year, that option for Swayman will likely be eliminated anyway. But it's really for the Oilers. What happens is you're probably sticking with the safe option, whether we like it or not, just because Jake Allen's more or less a side grade. You've got a situation where the goaltending free agency market is weak at best, and you're overpaying no matter who you get. And the Oilers have goaltending for under $4 million that is back-to-back Cup finals. Hard to argue.
Yeah, fair points. Patrick?
Well, there is no obvious solution out there. I mean, you're basically looking at goaltenders that are, some of them an upgrade on Calvin Pickard, but they're also going to cost you $2-3 million more than Calvin Pickard. So until they can find someone that is a clear upgrade or at least can be challenging Stuart Skinner more than Calvin Pickard can in a tandem, I think you got to just keep the status quo, because we don't need to make a trade just for the sake of making a trade and then be stuck with another bad contract or something like that. Like, Jake Allen is the top goaltender available on the free agent market, and that should tell you everything you need to know about the free agent market. No offense to Jake Allen, but he should not be making $4 or $5 million, which he's probably going to do on Tuesday for some team giving him that. So I don't know. Like, John Gibson was a hope and a prayer that he doesn't get hurt. Thatcher Demko, if he does become available, is a hope and a prayer that he doesn't get hurt. Artur Sheilofs is a guy that could maybe be in a tandem, but again, is Vancouver going to trade Sheilofs to the Oilers? Probably not, despite the fact that they just did a trade. So I guess maybe, but that was different circumstances. But yeah, aside from even like a guy like Jeremy Swayman, like, you're still taking a big risk there. Like, he's making over $8 million. If that goes sideways, you're stuck with another albatross contract. Not to say that Swayman will go bad, but it's a risk I just don't know if the Oilers can take. Pretty much the only guy, I think, if he does become available by some really weird state of events, Ilya Sorokin, but I don't see that happening. So I don't know. I think the Oilers might just have to keep the status quo for now, and then maybe towards the trade deadline, something is out there where they can make that move to try and upgrade, or you try a Hail Mary here and you get somebody for maybe $2 million or less and see how it goes, and then go to the trade deadline for your next option.
Yeah. Dash, thoughts on that? I mean, you were big on the Pickard Skinner duo, and obviously that's, I don't know if that's changed for you, but that's changed somewhat for the fan base anyway, although I wouldn't say it's changed. There was always detractors in that space. So thoughts on what the Oilers can do next?
Let me just drag my soapbox back in here. Hang on. Look, what do you think I'm going to say, Michael? I'm going to say that there's 3 to 5 goalies in the entire world that can make a difference on the ice, game in, game out. And from 6 or 7 all the way to probably 150, I think goalies are systematic. They're a product of their system. Everybody thinks Swayman is good because he played for the Bruins in the year that they set the NHL record for the most wins in a season. Like, how'd the guy do that isn't in Boston anymore? Like, we got a 26-year-old goalie. A 26-year-old goalie that just went to back-to-back cup finals. He's learning how to win in the playoffs. He's learning how to lose in the playoffs. All Skinner's ever done in every league he's ever been in is improve. Year after year after year. Yes, last year was a setback. But maybe the year before was a big blip. And this was a correction. He's still on an upward trajectory as a goalie that will probably hit his prime like everybody else between the ages of 28 and 32. Like, hold your horses. We got the best backup in the league statistically. Just about went undefeated in the playoffs. All I heard all year was, Pickard didn't have a good enough competition in the real season, in the regular season. Michael, you said it. Who's he played? Well, he went up and played the Dallas Stars and the Las Vegas Knights and went undefeated in the playoffs. So the team played better when the goalies did well. Like, we had a Vegas Knights team that used 5 goalies to get to a cup final. It's just not what it used to be anymore. Play right in front of them. Have a goalie, maybe somebody with lightning in a bottle. It doesn't matter. Here's my hot take to finish all of this. I think the fact that Dustin Schwartz has probably been had one of the big. He's got a target on his back, like he's got a $10 million cap hit. Which, like, for a goalie coach, are you kidding me? And he's lasted like a cockroach through a nuclear holocaust. Like, it's crazy. So if he's actually finally going, that tells me that we're staying right where we are with our goalies. Because if you got to feed the media and feed the fan base, we're making changes between the pipes, fine. Then it's Schwartz, because I don't think it's Skinner or Pickard. They're coming back, you guys.
Best for last, Kevin. Thoughts on this one? It's hot topic.
I think that they're probably going to stand pat. We'll see what happens, but I am interested in a couple guys that are out there, but not out there really. UPL out of Buffalo. He had a terrible season last year, but the season before, that dude was absolutely possessed. I know he can play that way, and if you give him his team with good systems, i.e. not Buffalo, he stands a real chance of being a real star. But he's got a $5 million cap hit, and that's tough, right? Like, that's a pretty significant increase in spend. What I would like to do is find a goalie that can be 1A, and we make Skinner 1B and give him some time with the new goaltending coach and tweak some things about his game and see if we can keep him improving without him having the whole pressure. The pressure thing, I think, is underreported. Like, people were sending his family literal death threats.
Mm-hmm.
That affects a guy's focus. Like, he asked for a trade out of Edmonton because people were being shitty to his family. Like, how do you play your best hockey when you're dealing with that off the ice? Same with, he just had a kid. We can argue about the timing of that being a little bit inconvenient or not, but that's just not how the real world works sometimes. Like, people have to live their lives off the rink too. But the reality is he had some off-ice stuff going on, and I think that if we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater, we're probably making a mistake. So at the very least, I think we should retain Skinner as 1B. I think there is a goalie there. But UPL, that would be a get. Swayman, I feel pretty confident would be a get. His NTC doesn't kick in until after July 1st, I think. I doubt Boston's moving him. If they could extract Sorokin out of New York, because New York is really burning their team down, then that is the grand slam. That is the Ekholm of trades, right? Like, that guy is absolutely unreal.
How do you feel about Binnington, Kevin?
I don't think St. Louis, being a team that's hunting the playoffs, is going to want to separate from him right now, and they're probably especially not going to want to trade him to the Oilers. Just just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
they're not going to be doing us any favors after last year. So,
yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, you go into the season with what you got, right? And like anything, and we talk about this at the start of every Oilers season. You just got to make it to the trade deadline, right? And then you make the changes you need. Then you know what you have, right? Why would you move off of Skinner and Pickard after the playoffs that they had, with the exception of 2 or 3 games, right? And then you're going to move off of them in the off season, not knowing for sure what you have, and if you upgrade on D somehow. Right, then to Dash's point, you play right in front of them, right? Play right in front of the goaltenders, and all of a sudden they look like heroes.
Mm-hmm. For under $4 million a year, like our friend Tyson said.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite.
Who's bored with you? Clearly,
no. It's been a long day.
It's not quite.
It's all right.
Because we got a little bit of Jack Campbell's salary in there too, but either way, we like, you keep them and maybe make you don't have to wait till the deadline to make a trade, but I do think there's something to be said about having a goalie and backstopping that the team doesn't trust.
Yep.
And if at some point the team doesn't trust Skinner, remember Talbot when he let in every first shot for like a stretch of 20 games.
Did you say Talbot or did you say Talbot, Smith, Koskinen?
Yeah.
Campbell.
Yeah, you dropped a few letters there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, once you start to lose confidence in your goaltender, then it's whether it's the goaltender's fault or not, it's time to make a change. And sometimes that's to save a good player from look at Dubnyk, right? Like, the confidence thing, he gets out of there and does just fine.
Skip another team will do exactly what Dubnyk did. He'll start racking up all-star games.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do. I get people's leeriness about his lateral movement, right? Like, he does have some movement issues and some puck tracking issues that drives a guy mental. But again, you have to consider the cap hit there. And when they play good systems in front of him, he's pretty good. he's not ever gonna he's not ever gonna be a Sorokin, and you're never gonna see Skinner making $8 to $12 million, right? That's just not what his career path is gonna be. This trade, by the way, I just want to detour for a second. This trade coming out of Vegas and Nashville is nuts.
What?
It's Nicholas Hague to Nashville in return for Jeremy Lawson and Colton Sissons. And then Hague is signing immediately a 4 times $5.5 million extension with Nashville. So Sissons was a guy that was on my radar a couple of years back as a trade deadline piece, and we didn't pick him up, and that I think he would have been a good fit here. But that's some pretty tidy work by Vegas, I think.
Who's reporting on the trade? I want to.
Darren Dreger is the one I'm reading, but I've also seen Elliot's got it too.
Okay,
that's wild.
Yeah, that's big.
Another rumor though for goaltending was DiPietro, who was leading, I think, the AHL last year in goaltending performance. So maybe that's something you look at for, a Pickard replacement. I understand why people don't like Pickard. Like, he's a road hockey goalie, right? That's his style. Like, straight up, that's how he plays. And
Rollison.
Yeah, well, exactly, right? Like, he overcommits to stuff. His footwork's not the best. Wow, man. Just having all the technical issues today.
Wow.
What's going on now?
I don't know.
Bash at the park.
That's not the kind of show we.
Wow.
We got to put the adult content on this one.
Good thing I'm wearing pants this time.
Where were we?
Somewhere around my camera.
Man. What's going on here? What's going on?
Michael DiPietro.
Yeah.
Can you sign a goalie named DiPietro and really feel confident about it?
Just not for 20 years.
That's it, right? I think, but that's what they're going to have to do. They're either going to have to take a big swing at somebody who is basically a slam dunk, or they're going to have to take I think why everybody's so pissed off about Mackenzie Blackwood is because the fan base was calling for that for multiple years before that trade went down. Yeah. Right? Like, and he was available for next to nothing. And that's why people are frustrated with it. And then again, he went into the playoffs and got cratered. So,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got guys that took you to the final.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And they did, they had some amazing games, Pickard and Skinner. Right. And
but they also had some high pull percentages too, right? Like, that's, I get why people are pissed about that.
There was a point there was a point at which everybody was everybody was buying Skinner jerseys, and then 10 minutes later they're canceling the order. But man, like the roller coaster that is our goaltending combo. Yeah. Guys, we only got about 11 minutes left, and we haven't talked about two of the biggest names for the Oilers that they need to extend. That's Evan Bouchard, Connor McDavid. What are we hearing? Patrick, Oilers Fanatic, what are you hearing out there?
Well, the latest, I think Kevin mentioned it earlier, the 4 years at $9.5 million is the latest numbers that I think Elliot Friedman put out this morning on the 32 Thoughts podcast. So if they can get him at 9.5, that's a great number, because everything Stoff was saying it was going to be over 10. So it looks like it's going to be 4 years around that range, and I imagine we get an announcement on that pretty soon here over the next couple of days. The Oilers got to know what they have going into July 1st here.
Tomorrow's qualifying day, don't forget.
Yeah, and tomorrow's qualifying day.
Yeah.
Gonna have some news tomorrow anyways.
Yeah.
For real this time, though. None of this, like, we're gonna look at how much stuff is going on behind the scenes, and then crickets, right? Like,
yeah.
Do we do we feel like a McDavid extension is going to happen soonish, or is this
Be the
sort of a
same.
long-term play?
Same crap as Dryside. It'll be August or September when it shows up, and it'll be 4 years. Or, you know what? If I'm McDavid, I'm signing the 8 and taking the paycheck, because then it's guaranteed, and nobody's going to block McDavid if he says, "I want to trade the hell out of here." Right? Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and he,
Yeah.
he gets to pick the terms, right? Like,
Yep.
it's full no move and all.
And
of
we get
that.
to take half a team from somebody else, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, and Draisaitl's on for 8. I mean, maybe we see something sort of crazy, and he signs for 7, just co-term it, right?
I wondered about that. What would be sweet is if he did the 14.5 to go with Draisaitl, right? Like, or like $1 more, just as a
14.97.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I take
Yeah.
that.
I mean, these guys are making so much more money than they used to, right? Like when you think along the lines of what, Instagram influencers are making, like their social media accounts are making them money. They're making money off of guys like McDavid that can actually bring in advertising dollars in the NHL, are making the advertising dollars. Him staying in a Canadian market is actually a good thing for him, right? Like, that's not a bad thing for a player of that stature, where he is a marketable piece, right? Like, not that he wouldn't be if he was elsewhere, but what's Kachuk getting for advertising in Florida? Like Joe's used car lot down the street, or is he getting the same things that McDavid or even Crosby and McKinnon have to come up north for advertising contracts, right?
But some of those guys would prefer to be in that market. They'd rather just take their paycheck and have nobody know they exist when they walk down the street, right? Like, that's just depends on the player and the responsibility. Like, I get why the league wants McDavid to be the face of the league, and he's done a fairly good job of that. But he, that comes with its downsides too, right? Like,
Is there anybody here that thinks he won't sign?
No. 0% chance.
0.0000000.
I think he's going to do an 8-year deal.
There is a 0% chance that Leon is signing an 8-year deal and McDavid's walking. 0, because they will not play together for the remainder of their careers. That is the table stakes there.
100% agree. 100% agree.
Yeah, and to your point, I do think, Kevin, like, signing an 8-year for him is not the same as somebody else signing 8 years, right?
4
Like,
4 or 5 is good
he
for
gets-
both.
Yeah.
Don't you think, Michael?
Unless you're worried about injuries, because he plays high miles hockey, right? Like,
Yeah.
These guys are trying to guarantee their bankroll. 8 years is the best way to do that. And if you end up on LTIR for the last 4 years because something happens, then you still get paid, right? Like,
I'd honestly love them to co-term it with Draisaitl. I would love to see a 7-year, get them both done at the same time, and then at the end of it all, you know what? It's probably time. You've won your cups. Hopefully by that time, you're ready to make a move, change the franchise, do all the things you need to do. If you have to, even, right? You may keep them for another 4 or 5 years. Who knows? But I'd love to see a co-term.
You may have talked me into that, actually. I was thinking that there's no way the Oilers would want it, and they have to have it offset so they don't have to worry about it all at once. But at that point in time, they're at the prime of their career, or well past the prime of their career, and probably doesn't really matter how you're going to renegotiate at that time, I guess. But I mean, there's a lot of creative ways that, you talk about different ways guys can make money. I mean, like, don't think the Oilers can't be creative either. When Oilers and look, McDavid's wife just started a restaurant in Edmonton. How many years does it take to find out whether a restaurant is successful?
She has an Oilers clothing line, for frig's sakes. Like, it's not like just some like generic clothing. Like, it's an Oilers clothing line, right? Like,
he's gonna do what's best for his family. Well, like he kind of, the comment everybody freaked out about, I think, was the comment that made me feel the best.
Her home design business is here, based out of that same building, if I'm not mistaken, right? They spent a literal fortune on that project.
Yeah, that'll all get paid back by the Oilers Community Foundation. Nope, sorry, did I say that on?
Shit.
Too late to edit on live TV.
They're coming. He's coming back. He's coming back.
All right, guys, we got 5 minutes left, a little less than that. Let's go rapid fire at the end of this. We're going to go around the horn. Now, Kevin, it's your first time on the show, and as you know, and I'm sure you know, we have a tradition here on Oilers Live, mostly because I was talking too much. But I always I've let all my guests have the final say. Everybody throws themselves on mute, and you finished the show with a good night. And that's how I know to cue the credits, and we say good night. We're going to let you have the last word. We're going to go around a little bit of rapid fire. One move the Oilers absolutely must make this summer. Okay. And then anything else that you feel you need to get off your chest before we call it a night. I'll start. We'll just go myself, Tyson, Patrick, Dash, and then Kevin, you can finish it off for us tonight. I will say before we get into this, thank you, everybody. Sorry, 1 second here. We will, we can do a special.
Seems appropriate, right?
Absolutely. We will do a last word, special last word tonight after Kevin's done. If you've tuned in tonight, please give everybody on here a follow. Whether it's on the YouTube channels, we've got some great content from Tyson at Dolynny TV. Some all right content from some absolutely great content from Patrick at the Oilers Fanatic. These two guys, honestly, like, you just want to get an update on what's going on with the Oilers. These guys put in the work for you, and all you need to do is sit back and listen to their sultry voice as they tell you all the Oilers news and events that are going around. And then Dash, as always, is mainstay and co-host here of Oilers Live, and thanks to him. And then, of course, Kevin McCurdy, thanks so much for joining the show for the first time. I think if the Oilers are going to make one move this summer, it goes back to something Kevin said and something we've needed forever, which is a right-handed D. And so if there is anything that they can do to shore up the D on that right-hand side and do a second pairing, I think that's priority number one. And then we see everything that comes along with that. How do the goaltenders perform, right? How do the forward groups perform when we've got somebody who can move the puck up the ice? Like, so much happens from that space that we've never, ever seen in our McDavid era of Oilers hockey. And I'd love to see a solid first and second pair D to go with the forwards and the goaltending that we have today. That's all I got. We're going to move to Tyson.
Obvious. Trade Victor Arvidsson.
That's all you got.
All I got. Fucking bombs, man.
I love it. One move.
Victor Arvidsson,
He dropped Patrick's mic. It's like,
fade to black. Like,
that's my microphone.
Be careful with that. I'm going to say find a assistant coach to fix the power play penalty kill, get that going back on track, because those were things that were winning us hockey games that got us pretty much all the way in the Stanley Cup playoffs last year. So if they can find a coach or coaches that can get the power play and penalty kill back on track, I think the Edmonton Oilers will be much, much better next season.
Exactly. Dash?
you guys all missed it. You're clearly all completely tired and falling asleep here because none of you have said Kapanen. Awkward pause. All right. I think like we missed the boat on my number one target. I really wanted Noah Dobson. I really, really, really wanted Noah Dobson somehow. I don't know. Like he shoots the wrong way, but I would still take a run at Mike Matheson and figure out how to make that work. Find Leon a shooter. You know, if I got a wish list here and I get to go beg on it, I'll take Nikolai Ehlers all day long. That was hard to say. But ultimately, I go back to what I said earlier. We need to get faster and we need to get bigger.
All right, Kevin, your last word there.
I want to see a systems change more than I want to see a player change. The reliance on point shots that has absolutely plagued this team for most of the season, where they're taking weak, shitty point shots, with the exception of Evan Bouchard, is killing this team. They can't get anything down low in tight, and they're relying on their defensemen to do too much of the offensive generation, and it's affecting their ability to put the puck in the net. And the reason I think they do that is to limit rush chances against, which is to protect their goaltending. So there's, as a systems issue, they kind of need to unwind that and figure out how they can still play aggressive hockey and have their goaltending stand up to that when they need to, and how they can play that. Like, we saw what happens when it goes sideways, right? Like, Bouchard took a lot of heat for that one goal against where he got, beaten, but it started because Ekholm missed wide. It bounced off the stanchion behind Bouchard, and Marchand took off with it and scored, right? Like, that's just, it's not Bouchard's fault. It's missing wide, and it's just bad point shot. And we just relied on it way too much this year, and I think we need to change that dynamic if we're going to be successful there. So I think my number one need too is just shoring up the top six, so that we can not go the nuclear option quite as much too.
Absolutely. All right. And by request, we're going to give the last word to Bruce McCurdy tonight. This one always gives me chills. Here it is.
So, I mean, be thankful for what we've got, and it's every right to expect more, but enjoy the process, the build, and the ultimate when they do ultimately win the championship. When you've been building for a while, it's just so satisfying. Man, May 19th, 1984, I'll never forget it, how great that felt after following that team, game after game for 5 years in the NHL by then. And, it's just, that's the end goal, but the process itself is to be relished. And let's enjoy what we've got, which is fabulous hockey gifts. And good night.